I want to talk about biofabricating the future of organs and how generosity, science, and technology can help us reimagine what it means to give a life. But let's start with a quick question. Who here carries an organ donor card? Take a look around. Some do, like a lot of folks over there, less folks over here. Did you know that just one card has the power to change 83 lives? It's up to 8 lives that can be saved, and up to 75 that can be improved or restored. Today we live in a time where we are building fewer bridges to others than we used to. We are optimizing for our own benefit. And where nations are looking more and more inwards than outwards. So is it just me, or does generosity sometimes feels like an outdated concept? I hope not. Because in the work I do, or in medicine, I've come to learn that generosity is keeping many of us alive. Every 30 seconds, someone dies from a disease that can be cured with tissue or organ replacement. And in fact, the average waiting time for a transplant is 4 to 8 years, where patients wait for an organ that is needed today. Without a kidney, you live on dialysis, which means constantly tired, your life is on pause. Without a liver, you die. So given those odds, would you bet your life on an organ waitlist? The reality is, if you need an organ today, you can either wait long, as you have heard, and you might even die waiting, or you go with a direct transplant from someone you know. In both cases, you rely on someone's generosity. And in a world full of wars, pandemics, hunger, division, and self-interest, that's a risky bet. So maybe it's time to stop leaving it to chance and start taking our health and human compassion into our own hands. 3 years ago, my brother's kidneys failed. The situation was critical, and he needed a new kidney as quickly as possible. So the question was, from whom would it come from? And again, how soon can it be there? After thinking it through, and despite my fear, I decided to do it and give Justice one of my kidneys. So how was it? For Justice, the procedure of receiving the organ went very well. Like afterwards, there was some fine-tuning required from the doctors. But all in all, it was fine, and he's now healthy and living his life. So let me tell you how it was for me. Sure, there were tests and scans and a lot of preparation. But honestly, for me, the whole thing felt a bit like a bachelor trip over a long weekend. Okay, you better don't show photos of your bachelor trips, right? So this is a photo of the actual wedding. But anyways, you go somewhere, it's intense, and you're surrounded by your closest friends, or in my case, family and doctors. You come back dizzy, sore and tired, but closer than ever. The only difference, instead of losing a few brain cells, I gave away an organ. And my brother got his life back. So people have asked me, wasn't it terrifying? Sure, it was. But in the end, it really wasn't as bad as I thought. Fast forward 4 months later. I stood at the starting line of a triathlon. I trained for it slowly, and it worked. 5 hours later, I crossed the finish line. And I thought, hey, that's not too bad for half the kidneys. That journey showed me 2 kinds of limits. The limit of our bodies, like my brother's kidneys had reached their limits, and my body needed time to recover and to train again. And there are the limits of medicine, where transplantation is still the only real option when an organ fails. Both limits, luckily, can be pushed. Training moves one, and innovation moves the other. And the best thing, both is in our own hands. So what if we could truly overcome those limits? We're teaching machines to learn. We're exploring quantum computing and nuclear fusion. We're even planning trips to Mars. Yet in transplantation, the basic procedure hasn't fundamentally changed for decades. Patients still depend on donors, waiting, hoping, maybe surviving, always relying on generosity. Sure, there are alternatives being developed out there, such as animal transplants, genetic or cell-based therapies. But most of them, they struggle heavily, for example, with rejection, engraftment, and scalability. So how can we create a future where no one has to wait for a donor? Instead of relying on a system that is built on scarcity and generosity, we can now use something that is called biofabrication, a way to produce living, implantable human tissue in the lab. It sounds like science fiction, but it's happening. Just a 10-minute walk from here. My team and I, we are literally building replacement parts for the human body. And it's what's becoming possible that could change millions of lives. Here is how it works. The first step is human cells and clinical-grade biomaterials. The second step is production, using light-based 3D bioprinting. And then the last step is implantation. In simple terms, for those who didn't do too good at school in science, its living tissue is being assembled with different cell types in a way that it's kept alive and ready to heal. More technically speaking, take human stem cells. Build a natural structure around it, the extracellular matrix. It's like a house where the cells feel very comfy, where also blood vessels are added. And like that, real living tissue is created, and it can be implanted into a patient. And for the biopros amongst us, it's making cell therapies implantable. With this procedure, tissues can now be produced layer by layer in minutes while keeping the cells alive, versus growing them for several years. Required micro and macro vessels can be created and incorporated with highest precision. And of course, different cell types are being combined, just like our bodies do. And all of this can scale from tiny pieces to patches to full personalized tissues, finally to full-sized organs. And this is no longer a dream. It is working today. Behind me, you see a piece of human tissue which is ready for implantation. And we have done that. And it works. So it's fair to say that the future is now. And it means that patients will soon have options that never existed before. So let me give you some examples of what we're currently seeing. Living tissue can be used to fill and heal deep, complex wounds, like severe burns. And functional liver tissue can be produced and kept alive in the lab, and it will soon be implanted as a liver patch. And over time, this scales towards a full organ. So step by step, what once sounded impossible is now becoming reality. And on this photo, you see the 3D bioprinter that is producing human tissue live. It's essentially a 3D printer for organs. Please also take a look at this slide. I know it looks like abstract art, but what you're seeing is new cells and fresh blood vessels fully integrated into the body's own tissue after implantation. It's nearly undistinguishable from the native tissue. AKA, it works. To make big projects and this future a reality, progress must happen in stages. Just like in space exploration, for example. So you don't fly straight to Mars. You go to Moon first, You learn, you test, and then you move on. The same principle applies in regenerative medicine. Prove success step by step, and de-risk and scale from there. Let me give you some specific examples. At first, living tissue that actually looks like pictured here on this microscopic photo. This is a human tissue adipose implant. And these will soon help patients with burns and trauma where standard treatments fail. Filling wounds faster and healing with less scarring. Secondly, reconstruction after cancer. You might know that 1 in 8 women faces breast cancer in her life. Imagine restoring the body naturally with living tissue, not silicone or painful flap surgeries. And then, small functional liver patches will soon help children born with rare metabolic diseases or patients waiting for liver transplants. It will bridge the gap until a full replacement or a donor organ is available. And our long-term vision? No more waiting lists. And a world where organs can be built on demand, given every patient a chance. Now you might ask, will this make us live forever? Maybe yes, at some point, but not now. So let me ask you, what's more important to you? Living longer or living healthy? For me, it's about living healthy and actively until the very end. Expanding our health span, which is for me more important than our lifespan. And also think about the potential ripple effects. Every life saved could be the one that changes the world. The next scientist, artist, or teacher who inspires generations to come. And potentially, those people saved could end or prevent us from a war. Big innovations need courage, not just from visionary doers like scientists, developers, or entrepreneurs, but from all of us. And it takes open minds, supportive systems, and people who believe in innovation and progress. People like politicians, regulators, investors, doctors, and citizens who want to support technologies that can make a huge difference, even when it feels uncertain. Because progress doesn't happen by waiting. It happens when we dare to give, to support, and to believe. Today, it's already possible to create living human tissue. Tomorrow, we build full organs. But until then, there's still one thing that each of us can do to save lives. Please help me now. And take your right hand, reach out under your chair, and you will find at the front edge of your chair a card. Check it out. Is it your new credit card? No, but most probably as valuable as that. So you've hopefully found an organ donor card. And I really love the sound that it makes when you guys are grabbing it. So if you like, you fill it out. And then you keep it with you. Because right now, your decision could save lives. And that's generosity in its purest form. I'm sure that giving my kidney to my brother, one of my kidneys to my younger brother, was the greatest gift I could give, because it was a gift of time and a better life. Something no money, no achievement, and no invention could have yet replaced. But imagine a world where this gift, the gift of life, can be given to anyone who needs it, without depending on luck or generosity alone. This may sound like science fiction, but every day in our lab, I see us getting closer to that future. Now, while I go back to work and keep building that reality based on biofabrication and tissue therapeutics, I hope I can count on you guys to keep generosity alive out there. Because generosity will always make a difference. Thank you very much.